Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, along with my co host, Ed Carbajal. And on a weekly basis, we plan to bring you the biggest news and interviews in the world of combat sports. Ed, I know it's a little past your bedtime, but how you doing, my man?
Good, good, fantastic.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get right into this. This week, we're lucky to have special guest Saad Awad, who will be co-main event or in the co-main event fight at Bellator 201 on June 29th at the Pachanga Casino in Temecula. Syed, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you guys for having me. Sorry for starting a little bit late today. I had
Oh,
a little bit of a busy day today, but thank you guys for holding up and waiting for me.
absolutely, man. We appreciate you coming on. So let's jump right into it. How's preparation for the big fight coming up?
Preparation's going really good. It is. They asked for a catch weight for this fight, so I'm not too concerned about cutting weight for this fight, and I added some muscle. This training camp, so everything. I feel good. Feel really good coming in this fight, and my preparation has been coming along. You know, pretty good. Can't complain.
So
Is it a I'm sorry, is it a 165 or is it a 160 pound fight?
160.
We lost you there. Can you try that again?
Oh, sorry about that. 160-pound catch weight.
Awesome. Go
you're
ahead,
fight
Ed.
you're fighting Ryan Couture, right? That's Randy Couture's son.
Yes, sir.
Are you what are you concerned with as far as what he's bringing to the table when you're fighting? I know I feel like your preference. I mean, you're really well rounded. You've been fighting for Bellator since 2013, if I'm correct. And so like you kind of can adapt to most guys that you fight. But what do you think his strengths are? Are there any concerns as far as like preparation for the fight and what he brings to the table?
Well, he's been around for a while, and the secret's not out there. I mean, he's Randy Couture's son, so he does have a wrestling background, and his fights are pretty similar to his dad's. I mean, he's obviously not as good, but he's pretty similar. So I'm not too worried about everything. I know I'm pretty sure his game plan is going to be to try to wrestle me and get me up against the fence and dirty box and take me down, but yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking, but I'm pretty well rounded, and I've been training all aspects like I always do, just to be prepared for a stand up war or a wrestling match or a jiu jitsu match.
You seem to prefer the stand up though, from what I recall from the amount of fights of yours that I've seen. Am I wrong in that assumption? Because I know you like to throw hands.
No, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. I do prefer stand up fights. They're more exciting, and they're just to me it's boring. Like it's boring when somebody goes out there and tries to wrestle me, even though I know I'm winning the fight. Like I still try to get the fight back to my feet, even just to put on a show.
I got to ask you something. It's not going to be one of your fondest memories, but I was there covering the fight when you fought Brennan Ward, and you kind of initiated the way that fight went down. But I thought it was pretty cool, even though you didn't come out, the fight didn't come out the way you'd have liked. You, if I remember correctly, you were the one that actually said like, are we gonna just wrestle or are we fight? And you guys wound up just teeing off on each other.
Yeah, man. The game plan for that fight was actually to go out there, and I knew he was gonna wrestle me, so just to go out there, wrestle a little bit, let him get a little bit tired, and then try to strike him because they do. Screw this. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to fucking wrestle around for 3 rounds. And so as soon as he took me down once, and I think I got up right away, and then he went shooting again, and and then we're up against the fence, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like you wanna
Yeah,
you want you want to wrestle or you want to fucking fight? And then he was
yeah.
like, let's bang, bro. And then he let me go, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, I know you didn't come. I know you didn't take the W on that one, but I thought that was probably one of the coolest things you ever did when you fought. So, just wanted to let you know that's my fondest memory of all your fights. Like I've been watching you fight for a long time. You always seem really cautious and stuff. So when you did that, I was just super impressed with it. So, thank you for giving us that.
No problem, man. I mean, obviously, I wish I had went down a different way. I think if I was a little bit more prepared for that fight, it would have went down a different way. You know what I mean? I came into that fight really light, and it was kind of one of those things that just took the fight and winged it. And it is what it is. I think I'm gonna ask for that fight back. I've asked for it back. This is sooner or later, you'll get it. But this time I want to make sure I have the right training camp, put on weight the right way, and really go about it, the right way.
Ed had mentioned that you started in 2013 with Bellator, but actually you go back to Bellator 10, which was in 2009. I don't think I think you're the only fighter that goes back to the generation where it was a Spanish channel broadcast, and pretty much everything was in Espanol. Obviously, you've had about 15, 16 fights with Bellator, somewhere in that range. They treat you pretty well. You happy with the Bellator organization for the most part?
Yeah, I definitely am. I mean, when I had my first fight back in, like you said, I think it was 2009, 2010. It was like a one-off fight. I fought on the undercard, and I gave them like probably one of the fights of the year. And they didn't call me back. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but they didn't call me back. I went out, got some more wins. Had up and down, and then finally they called me back, and the rest is history since then. But Coker's awesome, man. I love fighting for him. I like the people there. They're all pretty cool. Every time I see him, it's like family. So, I really have no complaints right now. I just want to stay busy. Just when I'm not busy, that's the only time I really complain.
When you got your career started, Bellator's brought back kind of the tournament aspect. Not a lot of one night things, but some extended tournaments. Your early career, you actually have fought in a one night 4-man tournament in was it Costa Rica? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was Costa Rica. It was a 4-man tournament. I was told that it was like my second pro fight, I believe, and I was told that it was going to be at 170, and then I go out there. I remember I weighed in at 170 with shorts on because I was really light at the time, and there's a guy that weighed in at 185, and I was like, dude, what the hell's going on? And they're like, oh, it's 170 to 185. I was like, dude, that's not 170. That's 185. Like, you guys should have told me this. So, yeah, man. It was pretty cool, though. Definitely a good learning experience.
You went on to win that tournament. What's your opinion on the general, idea of fighting more than once a night? Is it something that you'd be interested in again, or, something that you'd rather concentrate on single fights?
I mean, it was awesome. I mean, I wouldn't have traded the experience for anything. But I think nowadays the competition is so much harder that it's you get out of one fight, you're pretty banged up. You know what I mean? And I got lucky at that fight, that tournament, that the first guy I fought was a judo black belt, jiu-jitsu black belt, and he right away he went to try to take me down, and I ended up on top of him, ended up with his back and choking him out. So I really took no damage. I don't think he hit me in the fight. So then going in the second fight, I was like, that was like my warm up to get into the fight. So I got pretty lucky, but like nowadays, I could go out there and have a fight and win every round, and then I'm hurting for a month. You know what I mean? So like for instance, my last fight, I fought JJ Ambrose, and it was a 3-round fight. I believe I won every round, and I had a broken hand. You know what I mean? And my leg was hurting, my collarbone was hurting for 2 months, and it's not that easy to go in there and fight at the level we're at and be able to still compete again the same night.
So you're not missing the tournament format, is what you're saying, versus the way things are going now.
You know what? I actually did like the tournament format because it was guaranteed you're going to stay busy. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, you're in this tournament, you keep winning, you're going to get paid. You know what I mean? You have another fight. And it was like, and you stay in your fight camp. You know what I mean? You're in it, and then 3 weeks later, you're training for 3 weeks, and then the last week is, fight week. So it comes really quick, like super quick. And I really enjoyed the tournament format, to be honest with you. Because now, sometimes, like last year, I believe I fought twice, and that kind of sucked. I mean, I think I got injured, that's why, and so I was out for a little bit. But I only fought twice, so that kind of sucked. And I can't control that. But this year, hopefully, I plan on fighting at least 3 times. This is my second fight this year, and hopefully, I'll get another one before the end of the year's over.
Well, you're on a 3-fight winning streak. A win over Couture puts you at 4 in a row. Got to put you in the top 2 or 3 in that division for Chandler or Primus, right?
I believe so, man. If you look at the guys that are in the division, and there's not the only guy that's on a winning streak really is I think Patricky. Guys that are worth naming, I guess you could say. And then obviously Chandler. You know what I mean? So and Chandler, Patricky just fought Chandler, this last year, I believe. So he's beat really good guys. He probably deserves a title fight just because the guys he's beat recently. But at the same time, it's like you're gonna keep having these same guys fight the same guys over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so you know, I feel like they need some new blood in there, and as long as I keep winning, hopefully I'll get that shot.
I hope so too. I gotta say, man, this is for me. It's a unique. I've been watching you fight for a long time, and every time, even when I've been at the fights live, you're always so serious and so prepared. I think this is the most I've seen you smile in this interview right now, and I didn't even know you're a father. So it's pretty cool to see this side of you. What do you do for fun when you're out of camp?
Oh man, it's funny you say that, dude, because I'm like probably like if you meet people that know me, they'll tell you like that's probably one of the nicest dudes. You know, I'm probably one of the nicest dudes you ever meet. And when I meet people that don't know me, you know, we could be in the same room for 30 minutes, and let's say somebody introduces us, and they're like, they'll come up to me after like, yeah, dude, I didn't want to say hi to you. You look like an asshole, and I'm like, dude, I'm not. I think I just have a serious look, and obviously, fight week, I mean, I'm usually like I put a lot of training behind my camp.
Yeah.
So coming in fight week, I'm usually pretty serious because you gotta be. It's
Yeah.
okay. One second. Okay, stop. No more. Look, they're watching you. Look.
As he talks about being serious, and he puts his cute daughter in the screen.
So yeah, man. So it's like you're going through all that training, and then you have your fight. So it's like it's kind of hard not to be serious, I guess you would say. And I try not to be, but it's just part of the camp.
Well, yeah, you have to have your mindset right for what you're about to do. I mean, it is a fight. It is a fight. So yeah, but I mean, it's pretty cool to see you like this because I got to tell you, I used to live with my ex-girlfriend, and we watched a lot of your fights back home when we lived together, and she said that guy seems so mad. So and it's like you kind of have to be in the right mindset, though. I mean, it is a fight, and I mean you're getting locked in a cage with another guy, so you guys have to be ready to do whatever you have to do to each other. But
No,
I'm
you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right, and I think that's one of the things for me. It's like I think I'm a pretty nice person. I think that's probably why I fight, because it's kind of like my out to kind of like relieve, so I hold a lot of things in, and I think when I get to fight, I get to like release all that, and that's when it all comes out, and that's when I really look like a dick. And don't listen. But that's when I really, you know what I mean? But yeah, man. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not that guy. I'm completely different when you get to know me.
Yeah, I have the same problem actually, so I can relate. Just my resting face. I mean, men don't have a resting B face. I'm watching my mouth for your daughter, but when our faces are relaxed and we're not walking around smiling, it's already assumed that we're angry. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So you started fighting around 2008, 2007, somewhere in that range, right there. Were you a fan of the sport, or was it something that just kind of fell into your lap and something you were good at?
I definitely was a fan of the sport. I remember watching, I believe it was like UFC 1 or UFC 2, and we recorded it on our VHS tape. Remember you could pop them in and just record. I think I recorded over like some old movie we had, and then me and a bunch of friends, we went and watched it at my friend's house, and then we went outside and had a tournament. It was like 6 of us, and we all fought, and we didn't know submissions, but we would use pressure points as submissions, and then and I ended up going to the finals with my older brother, and he just whooped my ass like he always did. So turn down. So yeah, man. So I was a big fan of the sport, and when I got into it just for fun, because my little brother was actually getting into a lot of trouble. So I told him, let me sign you up, because he liked to fight. So I was like, let me sign you up in a boxing gym. And I looked and I saw an MMA gym, and I was like, oh, I didn't know these like kind of existed around here, because at the time it was 2006, I think, and it wasn't MMA wasn't that big, and so I took him to sign up, and he wouldn't let me sign up without him. He's like, no, I'm not staying unless you stay with me. And I was like, screw it, I wrestled in high school, I was used to being active, and I was like, I'll do it with you for fun, shits and giggles. And it turned out that the matchmakers and the owner of King of the Cage owned that gym I was at. So the matchmaker trained there. Go play over there. So go. So yeah. So they ended up setting me up for a fight, and the rest is history.
Was that Terry Troublecock?
Yes, sir. It was at WCG in Hesperia. That's where we first trained at.
Awesome. So were there any fighters that caught your eye early on that you were a big fan of, or anybody that you kind of copied, thought you could try to copy their style to get going?
Yeah, I was a big fan of I still am, Vanderlei Silva. You know what I mean? Because I just liked how he just didn't care. You know, he just went out there and just fought, and he fought as hard as he could. And then, like he usually came out at the time. He was always coming out with the win. It was when he was fighting in Pride. And then I was a fan of BJ Penn because BJ reminded me, like, at the time, like when you see BJ now, obviously you look at him, it's BJ Penn. He's a fighter. But when he first came out, he looked like a chill, like a surfer dude, like real calm. He had that serious look, but you could tell he was like a normal dude. He wasn't buff. He wasn't, you know what I mean, like huge. He didn't really look intimidating. I mean, until you seen him fight, you're like, holy crap, that dude's badass. But he reminded me of like an average Joe, and I was like, man, that's cool. To me, it was real cool. And then to see how good he was, and to go out there and dominate the guys that he did dominate, I became a huge fan of him. When I first started training and stuff, even before that. So like him and Vanderlei were like two guys that I really, really, really stuck to. I mean, Vanderlei styles not the best of styles, but just him being like have not giving a fuck attitude really caught my attention, and I think it kind of uh, I guess I subconsciously mimicked his style by going in there and really not caring and not it's not that I don't care, but it's that like it's like kill or be killed attitude. I think I got that from him and kind of from BJ Penn too, because he kind of had that attitude of go in there and he would box with the best boxers, take down the best jiu-jitsu guys and submit them.
Awesome. Well, kind of to finish that whole line of questioning out, is there anybody in today's I mean, obviously Vanderlei still fights occasionally, and BJ Penn's basically been retired. Is there anybody today that you as a fan, you tune in to watch?
There's a lot of guys. I'm still a fan of the sport. You know what I mean? Even like when I see some of these guys, even though at the level I'm at and whatnot, I still like I fan out to some of these guys. You know what I mean? Of course, you see Fedor. I don't care if I'm the world champ with 3 belts. I'm still gonna fan out to the dude. You know what I mean? And there's still guys out there. I'm a fan of a lot of these guys. And of course, St. Pierre is obviously one of the best, and he's a dude that I look up to, and I admire his work ethics. But there's man, if I started naming them off, I have a whole list of them. Guys that I like.
Yeah, that's always a rough question for me too. When people ask me who your favorite fighter is, there's so many. I mean, you're one of them because I've been watching you for a while.
Thanks, man.
But just talking about, you had mentioned all the weight classes you fought in, and you're fighting at catch weight for 201. Are with all the weight controversy, talking about changing weigh-in times over at the UFC and stuff. I mean, do you have an opinion on that? What's your take on weight cutting? Obviously, you fought at a lot of different weights, so I'm curious as to how you feel about the whole thing.
I mean, I feel it's super disrespectful when guys miss weight. You know what I mean? There's been like I'm a pretty big lightweight, and I usually come in really big. Fight day. That's why I'm able to fight at 170 and kind of be almost the same size as some of these guys. And I'm a lot bigger than a lot of the lightweights I do fight. So when I see guys not make weight, it really bothers me, man. Because part of this sport is to weigh in at a certain weight and fight. So when you come in a couple pounds heavy, it's a huge disrespect. Because the way I look at it is, if you're not cutting those last couple of pounds, those could be the pounds that really deplete you. And your opponent's doing it, and then you come in and you win the fight, and the guy, he ends up gassing out. It's like, dude, that dude probably gassed out because he cut those last couple pounds. Yes, baby. And you what's called it, and you had that extra energy because you didn't. So it's like, what if you would have cut that last couple pounds? It could have been an even fight. So I think, to me, it's real disrespectful. If it was up to me, if I owned the organization or I made the decision, I would take 50% of the purse, and I bet you a lot of guys will stop missing weight, or I would scratch the fight. Unless it's a huge fight, I would take 50% of the purse, pay it to the other fighter, and make that fighter weigh in the next day, like they did with Darren Till. But so I would definitely take at least 50% of the purse and have the commission step in and suspend the fighter so that they can't fight for 8-9 months and see if they do it again.
But do you have a preference in time? Like when you weigh in, do you care if it's in the morning or in the afternoon?
I like the morning weigh-ins now. You know what I mean? I've gotten used to it, and it's made me just prepare myself even more so that I could because I know I have to weigh in early. You don't have all day to make weight anymore. So I just prepare a little bit earlier. I cut a little bit more weight the week of, so I'm not waking up 10 pounds heavy with 2 hours to cut weight. You know what I mean? So I'm making sure or I'm waking up early. I think like 3 fights ago, I think one of the days I woke up like at 4 or 5 a.m. to cut weight because I knew I had to make weight. So for these guys using that as an excuse, saying I don't have enough time to make weight, dude, you had 3 months since you signed your contract. You should have lost the weight. That's on you. You know what I mean? Like
Do you know why Bellator asked for a catchweight for this fight? If I recall, Couture, at least most of his career has always been at lightweight.
Yeah, you know what? I fought at a catchweight before, so I think they knew I wouldn't have an issue with it. And I think I know Ryan, his last fight, he fought at 170, and he hasn't fought in a year. So I'm guessing he's big. You know what I mean? That'd be my only guess. He's big, and he doesn't want to cut too much weight, or he probably doesn't want to focus on killing himself to make weight coming back. You know, what I mean, after not fighting for a year. So that's what I'm guessing. So when they asked me about it, I didn't care. I started eating more and I put on more muscle and I did it the right way because I had time. So to me, it's like it was if anything, it's benefiting me a lot more than it's benefiting him. Instead of him killing himself to make weight, I was able to train harder, eat more, and put on some muscle.
I'm not sure if you're aware of some of the rules in some of the Japanese organizations, but I believe there's a few where if you miss weight, I think there's one where if the heavy fighter wins the fight, it's ruled a no contest. So he really can't even get a win. And then there's another one where I think they're automatically start the fight a round down. Basically, they're taking a point or two away. So
Yeah,
they start the fight, down basically down a point, in a 3-round fight. So
I'm with that. I'm with it, man, because it's not fair. At the end of the day, it's not fair that. And some guys just really disrespect it. Like they'll come in 4, 5, 6 pounds heavy because they're like, screw it. I'm not weighing any. I don't. They don't care to lose 20%. 20% to some of these guys is not really a lot, especially when you're cutting weight and you're dead tired. You're like, screw it, take 20%. I don't care. There's so many times where it's crossed my mind when I'm killing myself to make weight and they're trying to throw me back in the bath, and I'm like, I don't want to go and screw it. Let them just take it. You know what I mean? I'm over like 2, 3 pounds or something, and I'm completely dead. And then I have to really dig deep and go back in there and really come out. Like there's been times where, as soon as I make weight, I just start bawling, crying, and I can't help it because I'm just, that was like a fight for me. You know what I mean? Because I really thought I couldn't do it, and I had to get back in the sauna or get back in the bath and really cut weight. And I'll just sit there and just like my emotions just go, and I'll just like I'm not a crier, but just something that from pushing so hard and able to push myself like past the limit that I thought I could and actually make weight, and it's just like a sign, a relief. So I definitely, I'm with it, man. I'm with them, definitely penalizing them. I think they should fucking suspend them. I think the commission should step in, just like they step in, take 20%. They should step in and put a suspension fee and take 50%. Fucking suspend them for 8 months. That's like that's more than a fee because most guys fight every 3 to 6 months, and a fight that could be a lot more than 50% of or 20% of what they're losing.
Yeah, because in the smaller shows, it's not that it's not as big of a deal. 20% of $1,000. It's a big deal to the fighters, but it's still not. It doesn't have the repercussions at the top level of Bellator or UFC. A guy like Darren Till, you mentioned him earlier. He missed weight by what, like 6 or 7 pounds, and he moved up 6 spots in the rankings. So he may have given up $40,000 in his pay, but his next fight, he's going to make $500,000.
Yeah,
it's a reward.
And yeah, exactly. Not only that, he got his win bonus. They don't take your win bonus. So the win bonus is probably double what he made. So let's say he made 60 and 60. He lost 20% off of 60, which is what? 10,000, not even 10,000. I think it's what? 5 off of 50? Or no, 10 off of 50.
It's like 12, 13,000.
Whatever. Like yeah, but then he got his win bonus. Let's say it's another 60. So that covered that tenfold. You know what I mean? So yeah, dude, I don't think that the 20% is bullshit. It's just like kind of, it's just a way for the commission to make an extra 10% because they take 10% anyway, and the fighter only gets 10%.
Do you ever think that I know you said you're happy with Bellator and you've been with them for a while, but do you ever think that other fighters get pushed more? Because today they actually put out your promo video for the event. I don't know if you saw it. It was like the highlight of all your finishes and stuff. So do you ever think that sometimes some fighters get overlooked when they're pushing fights, or they or some promotion lacks for events?
You know what? I didn't even see that. Who, Bellator posted it?
Yeah, it's I think it's called like Get to Know Saad Awad or something like that. It's pretty cool. It's a good highlight reel for that it's about you. So I don't recall seeing anything like that. I mean, like I said, I've seen you fight a lot, but I've never seen them push you, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, and that was my issue last fight because I was so happy I was a co-main event. I was like, hell yeah, I'm moving up. You know what I mean? Things are starting to look good, and then I seen one post a month before my fight, and we're literally out there fight week, and I was like, how come they haven't posted anything about the co-main event? You know what I mean? Like, this isn't right. And I get it. Like, in the smaller shows, in Bellator, they only promote the main event. And if you notice, they do it with all the shows. But just, being like, okay, cool. I've been here so long. I expected it and I didn't get it. So I complain. You know what I mean? They're like, dude, don't take it personal. It's just how they run their shows, And so I'm noticing this fight, they're starting to push it a little bit more. And you're all right. So, and they do promote, not them. Most organizations do promote, certain people more because their following's bigger. They have a bigger crowd or whatever it is, and they promote them more, and that's why they have a bigger crowd, bigger following because they've been promoted, they've been pushed, or maybe they have a mouth on them and they're exciting, whatever it is. But I don't think it's right. I think if we all made it to the stage, I think everybody should get promoted equally. You know what I mean? Like we're all fighting. At the end of the day, we're all fighting, and we're all fighting for the show. We're all here to put on a show, and if somebody's not fighting hard enough and not doing their job, fucking cut them. You don't need to not promote them, you know?
Are you a fan of social media? Do you ever self promote on in the digital age of social media? Everybody seems to use Instagram or Twitter or something. Are you a fan of any of that?
No, I am, and I have all of it. And I mean, I never used to be crazy about posting. You know what I mean? Most of my posting was like about my family and whatnot. And they, like I talked to my management, like, dude, you need to, not my management. I talked to my management and some of the dudes from Bellator. They're like, dude, you need to start promoting yourself. A lot of these guys promote themselves, and they've gotten themselves big, and that's why, we give them that platform, but they're promoting themselves, and that's why they're getting the fights that they're getting, and that's why they get the attention they're getting. But that's never been me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not that guy that's gonna go out there and start saying this and that and talking and whatever. But I mean, I guess I started using it more towards my fighting. Started posting a little bit more of my training stuff. So my partners, like if you go on there now, you'll see some, just like the past year I've been trying to do a little more, but I'm still not that guy. Like I don't like attention. You know what I mean? Some people like attention. They post fucking every couple hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before, yeah, I was posting once every like 2 to 3 weeks before. So now I'm like, okay, I'm trying to post a little bit more. I'm trying to mix it up, do family pictures, do my training stuff, and because at the end of the day, you really think about it, you follow people that that you like, that you're interested in, and you follow, you want to see that what they're doing. So when they're not posting, it's like, dude, why am I following this dude? They're not even posting anything. It's wasting, you know what I mean? It's wasting space on my feed. Like even for them to even to be on my followers list or whatever it is. So I feel like it makes sense. You know what I mean? People they tune in because they want to see what's going on.
Well, in a way, you're an old school fighter. I'm friends with Virgil Zwicker. I don't know if you've ever fought any of the cards with him, but he's kind of the same generation of you as far as starting in the kind of mid to later 2000s, and he had the same kind of attitude where he kind of comes from the old school where you fight, you win, and that should do the talking for yourself. Sounds
Yeah,
like you kind of fall into that same belief system where there wasn't social media back then like there is now, and you it was you promoted yourself with what you did in the cage or in the ring.
yeah. Me and Virgil, I think we fought on the card together because we're both from the same area. He's from, I think, Temecula area, like near Pachenga where we're fighting at. And we fought in some cards together. I'm almost positive we did. If we didn't, I've seen him at a million fights, like in the smaller shows, and even Bellator. I've seen him there. Me and him we're pretty good friends.
Yeah, I live right down the street from Pachenga as well. I'm in Temecula, so
Oh, you do?
I make all those shows. Yeah, what's your talking about the fights in Temecula? What's your opinion about fighting locally? Do you like fighting locally? Because the vast majority of your fights have been probably within 50, 60 miles of where you're living. It appears. Do you like that, or do you like to kind of get out of town and get away from everything a little bit?
Come on. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Hey, here. Um, you know what? I like it. I like it. It makes things easier. You know what I mean? Like I always stress myself out when I'm flying because I usually miss a day of training. You know what I mean? Because like you're on the airplane and then a lot of times you forget shit. It's hard to find. Like let's say you need a sauna. You got to try to find one, and then you got to ask the Bellator, hey, can you guys take me at this time? And they'll have like certain times they go, so it becomes more of a hassle. But when you're local, you have your car, you know everything around here. If I need to fucking come home, I'm gonna drive home. I live 45 minutes away from there. If anything happens, and not only that, it's like all my friends and family got to come to the fight. But at the same time, I really do enjoy fighting at other places because usually it's places that I would never go. You know what I mean? Like when am I ever gonna go to Budapest? Let's say they fight out there. I was supposed to fight out there before, and and the fight fell through. But like that would have been awesome. You know what I mean? I would have paid for my wife's ticket. It would have been a vacation for us. You know, a free vacation for me, and then I would have just had to pay for one ticket, and then I would have probably stayed a couple of days later and just enjoyed time out there, and then came back. So I do like fighting locally, but usually when they fight at like cool places, I would love to jump on those fights as well.
I know you fought at Mohegan Sun. Matt kind of stole my question a little bit. I was going to ask you if you had a preferred coast you liked fighting on, because obviously it's a coast-to-coast combat hour, and I'm on the East Coast. He's on the West Coast. I'm pretty sure Mohegan Sun in Connecticut's not one of your favorite places to fight because it's boring up there. I mean, I go up there to cover the events, and there's nothing around but trees, and it's creepy in Connecticut. Outside of the Mohegan Sun, that's a fun place, but I mean, I'm joking, obviously, but it's just like every time you guys come up here, it's either it's cold and creepy, or it's just cold.
Bro,
So,
I sorry to cut you off, but I like Mohegan because it's you don't have to leave. You know what I mean? You're inside the casino, and it's like a big like there's like it's like a mini mall. You know what I mean? And it's chill. The rooms are nice, but I'm 1-1 there. You know what I mean? I lost one. I won one out there. So I no hard feelings against it. But one thing I didn't like was my wife came out there to watch my fight, and I had her catch an Uber because it was so far, and the Uber driver took her on a detour and started taking her into the woods, and she freaked out, and bro, it was all bad. And he was like, "Oh, I'm running out of gas," and all the gas.
Oh my God!
Yeah, all the gas stations were closed, and finally she saw a building that had like light, and she was like, "Just pull over there." He's like, "No, we're gonna go this way," and he tried taking her literally through the woods, and the dude was like a creep, and then finally she got out of the car. She's like, "I'm good here. I'm good here." And
wow.
Yeah, dude. And then he was like being super weird, and finally she went to some guy. She was like, "Dude, like stay with me." Like the guy that was at the business, the guy came out and stood there, and finally he like bounced. Like so, it was a bad experience with the Uber driver out there.
Yeah, it's just weird out there in general. But I mean, I actually, when Matt said he was going to get you on, I was surprised because, like you said, you fought out here a few times, and I thought you were from the East Coast until he's like, no, he's a West Coast guy, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that. So
yeah. No, I have family out there though. I have family in New York. I have family, I think some in Jersey, I want to say, and towards that area. So I had, they always come out whenever I fight. So it's pretty cool.
One other question that's kind of been a hot topic on the MMAcommunity.com forum, which is the forum that I usually post and do some writing for, is Bellator's situation with having fighters sell tickets. When you fight locally, do they put pressure on you to sell tickets, or is it just something that kind of goes along with fighting, locally?
Not at all. I mean, I think for me, because I'm kind of past that, but they know when I fight, I have a big crowd that comes. Like when I fought in I think it was Georgia during the tournament when I fought Rickles in the finals. I had probably 30 people that flew out just to go to the fight, and then while I was there was like at least like 10, 15 people that I knew that were like from New York or from Atlanta or wherever that came out to the fight. So I had a good 40, 50 people show up that bought tickets, and so when I'm here locally, before they'd give me a promo code, and then I would kind of just dish it out to my people, and they would buy tickets or whatnot. But like this fight, they didn't even give me a promo code, and the event pretty much sold out. And I know a lot of people, like there's a lot of people going, and they know when I fight, like have a quarter of the venue's full. So it's so I think that's why they don't put tickets in my hand, because they know like people are gonna buy tickets when I fight local.
Yeah, I checked today, and the event's completely sold out. It was down to about a dozen tickets out of about a week ago, and now it's today the Ticketmaster had it shut down. So they do great when they go to Pachanga, especially with the new setup they got there.
And the venue's not very big either. So so then what they do is they put a lot of fighters on the undercard that sell tickets. So a lot of those guys, what I mean, they go out there and they hustle tickets, and they make an extra percentage off of it. So of course they're gonna hustle tickets and then fill up the room.
Do you ever hear of people complaining about it though? I mean, I know that's basically one of the issues is that I've always, I've been around the sport since the late 90s. So I know how kind of the Indian reservation thing works, and the smaller, King of the Cage, Gladiator Challenge, everything. It was always about fighters selling tickets. They made a percentage off of it, and it kind of helped boost their purse. Do you hear complaints from fighters? Obviously, I'm not asking for any names or anything, but do you hear complaints from people about having to do that? Or is it just kind of part of the game when you're coming up in the sport?
Yeah, no, I definitely do, and it sucks because I've heard of guys. I've heard of guys. Stop. Okay, stop. I've heard of guys like they'll go and they'll tell them that they're going to sell tickets, and then they'll go have their whole fight camp, and then come fight day, they'll sell like 8 tickets because unfortunately nobody will buy it. They couldn't get people to buy them, and then they'll scratch their fight. It's like, dude, you just have this dude train for the past 2 months, and just because he didn't sell enough tickets, you're gonna scratch his fight the night of the fight. You know what I mean? Gladiator Challenge done that a million times, And luckily for me, I would always, like when it was time to sell tickets, like I had a lot of people that wanted to come. So every time I would sell tickets, they would what's call it? They made sure I had a fight. I mean, there was one time I sold a bunch of tickets and I was there in the back room. They're like, "Oh, sorry, your guy, he didn't show up. But don't worry, we got somebody else." I was like, "Who?" "Don't worry, we got it." And I remember walking out and I didn't even know who I was fighting.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I walked in the cage. And I see this black dude on the other side, and I look and I was with Georgie. Georgie was cornering me, and Georgie's really smart. So what Georgie does, he looks at the guy's corner and he sees the guy in the corner, and he was like, "Okay, that the gym he's coming from is not good." You know what I mean? He's like, and so he told me like, "Don't worry about it." I'm like, how do I know? Wasn't this guy's like some fucking black belt? Or he's like, believe me, if he's a black belt or whatever, he's not going to be out of that gym. So it kind of like gave me a relief just by seeing who the guy's corner was. You know what I mean? So yeah, so ticket sales suck. Ticket sales suck. I was fortunate enough to sell enough tickets to always keep my fights, but it was always pressure. When it was time to sell tickets, it was like, hey, if you don't sell at least 40, 50 tickets, your fight's gonna get scratched.
The only time I've ever seen or heard a rumor of it was an opponent for Brian Rogers in Bellator, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I guess they pulled him kind of the day of the fight, and Rogers had already made weight for the event and everything. Have you seen it ever in Bellator? I mean, I just kind of asked, like I said, because it's been a big topic lately.
You know what? I haven't. I think I mean Brian Rogers. I know he fought. I think like 2 years ago, or maybe last year. Yes, maybe. Like maybe last year, but probably at the time was maybe when Bellator was still coming up. So maybe that's why something like that happened. I couldn't answer for them, but I haven't seen that. To be honest, I haven't seen it in Bellator.
Cool. How did you like the old regime under Bjorn compared to now? What was your opinion of the differences?
I mean, it was cool. I mean, at the time, I was still, I got thrown in the tournament. They kept their word because when they signed me at the time, they kind of signed me on the win of they told me they're like, hey, we're gonna put you on the card. You win this fight, you're gonna be in the next tournament. And then I was like, okay, whatever, And they're like, but if somebody gets injured in this tournament, we'll guarantee you a spot. And then you know how that goes when people tell you that. And this is before I signed the contract. They wanted me to sign like a 2-year, 3-fight contract or 4-fight, whatever it was, contract. And I was like kind of skeptical about it because at the time I was like, oh, Bellator's still coming up. Everybody wants to fight in the UFC at the time. You know what I mean? And Bellator's name wasn't really that big. And I was like, well, what if UFC calls me? And they're like, dude, you're gonna fucking wait for that? Who knows when they're gonna call? What if they don't call? And I was like, what, you're right. So I signed, and then 2 weeks later, Patricky got hurt, and then they put me in the tournament, so they kept their word. And when I was fighting for him, it was cool. I got in one tournament, and then right after that, they threw me right in the next tournament, and they kept me real busy. So I really have no complaints. And some of the guys are still there that were there, like Ian Matthews and a couple of the other guys. And I'm really cool with those guys. I met Ian at Bellator 10 when I fought on that undercard, and he's the only guy that I think one of the only guys that's still there since the beginning. And it's pretty cool because I have a pretty good relationship with it, with them and whatnot.
All right, cool. You got do you to predict your own fights, like as far as how 201's going to go down against Ryan Couture?
I mean, my prediction is always I'm going to win by knockout, but I mean, you know how that is. You can pray for the worst and the best come out of it, or you could pray for the best and the worst could come out of it. But I'm hoping to get a knockout. Obviously, I'm in my hometown. I like to get in there and get out of there quick because I don't get injured and hopefully be able to fight again right away. You know what I mean? So, if it's up to me, I'm gonna get in there and hit them once and the fight's gonna be over. But we all know that usually doesn't happen. So
yeah,
if we do start hitting the mat, I believe I'm gonna beat them every round, and I'm hoping to get the finish. I don't think it's gonna go 3 rounds.
No, I don't think so either. I think you'll finish him off. His chin's been a little suspect over the years. If you hit him, he's going down.
I was actually going to say the same thing. I agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm banking on. So I'm not banking on, but that's what I'm hoping for. And I train really hard, so I feel like even if I don't get the knockout early, I'm still gonna have my power going into the second or even the third round. And like me having that confidence and being aware that I have that there, yeah, I'm gonna throw my hands a lot more and throw them with power. So hopefully I'll end up getting a knockout.
I have you on here, and there's one of your fights. You mentioned it earlier with David Rickles, and it had a situation that always kind of confused me. And I always kind of was one where I wanted to run into you and maybe ask you, even though it was one that ended with him winning. That fight ended basically, I think it was after the second round, maybe the first round. But it was like 10 seconds into the round, I think into the break, and I think it was Rob Hines might have been the referee that night. I can't recall exactly, but they stopped the fight kind of. It seemed like you were kind of catching your breath on the ground as the cornermen and everybody were coming into the ring. Was that a situation where you thought it was a BS stoppage, or was that a situation where you were kind of done?
Of course, it was BS stoppage. I was waiting to do 2 rounds. I had a broken hand. I was tired, and then he caught me literally like right when the bell rang. So as soon as I hit the floor, the bell rung. So I rolled over. And I'm like, thank God. You know what I mean? I got rocked. The bell rung. I'm saved by the bell. So I rolled over. I put my hand behind my head. And I was waiting for my corners to come in, get me up. You see corners come in and drag their guys up to the stool. So I'm like, dude, I'm going to rest and get my breath until they come in. And the next thing you know, the referee walks away and walks back and calls the fight. And then the picture's on Sherdog. If you go on Sherdog, I jump up right away and I'm sitting there on my butt like, what are you doing? He's like, I asked you to get up. I was like, you didn't ask nobody. You're mic'd. Like, and then and he was like, no, I asked you and you didn't respond. And he can't call a fight. I don't know if you know the rules, but a referee can't call a fight after the bell rings due to injury. If they think there's an injury, you have to call the doctor and the doctor has to stop it. You know what I mean? The bell rung, the round was over. So if an injury happens, they would have to come in. So he already messed up. And then, so yeah, I got screwed, I got screwed in that fight. And then Big John McCarthy actually asked me about this during the interview for Bellator, he works for him now, right before my last fight. And I asked him, I said, what do you think about it? He said, it's funny you say that. When I teach refereeing, I put on that video and I asked all my guys, what would you do in this situation? And everybody has different answers. And then he tells them the referee messed up. The referee should have did this, this, and this. He should have called the doctor in. And, Saad Awad got screwed by it. He's like, this is a video I use for my promotion, which is, it's cool to know, but it still sucks because I still have a loss. You know what I mean? That loss is still on my record.
Yeah.
What I mean? When that happened, and title fight. I could have fought for the title after that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I watched that fight live and I thought the same thing. I was rooting for you and I couldn't believe it wasn't like he didn't give you 20 seconds. He didn't give you 30 seconds. I mean, you got a minute in between the rounds. I didn't know there was a rule that said you couldn't lay on the ground. You can sit on your stool, you can stand up, but I mean, in theory, if you wanted to lay down for 60 seconds, I didn't know that was against the rules. Like you said, he basically took 2 steps away from you, turned around, and then just waved the fight off.
Yeah, he didn't even give me my minute. He didn't even give me anything. The bell rung. He walked away, and then Rick was pointing at me because I was on the floor. And I remember looking at him like, fuck you, like, dude, I'm tired. And then he walks back, and then I could have got it. If I would have known that was going to happen, I would have got it right away. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he walks back and just waves the fight, and I'm looking at him like, and I get up like literally right away, and I'm like, dude, why would you do that? Oh, you didn't respond. I said, you didn't ask me. What do you mean I didn't respond? I responded what? And he knew he was wrong. You know what I mean? He even he kind of apologized. Like, oh, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about what? Like, you cost me a lot of money. You cost me a title fight. So, it is what it is. And, I'm not going to, be sour about it. But, it is what it is,
Yeah, it's all moments you can't take back, man. So, anyway, I mean, just worry about your fight on the 29th. Don't think about stuff like that anymore.
Of course.
I just appreciate the answer to that, because when there's been some situations recently with UFC, and there was an Invicta fight where people were choked unconscious going into the end of the bell, and I kind of and then the ref will stop the fight, and people are kind of in question about it, and I'll show your fight and go, this is kind of a BS, but I always wondered what your opinion was on it. I mean, he hit you at the very last second, but you didn't go unconscious. You were laying there. I think you had your hands behind your head. You were looking up at, it was clear you were awake, So it was just one of those things where I'm glad that I got that cleared up. I've been wondering about that for years.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Yeah, if you ever have any questions, ask me. But yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying to even thinking about that fight. But you're right. It's behind me. It's not something that I held on to. I held on to it for a while. but I figured out there's nothing I could do about it. It's not gonna bring back the win. It's not gonna bring back my money or anything. So I just I let it go, and now I learned from it. I know no matter how tired I am, get up and get to your stool. Because you don't know what these referees are thinking.
How would you like a trilogy fight with Will Brooks?
Oh, now I would love it. At the time he beat me based on wrestling and cardio, but ever since that fight, I have a background of wrestling, but I just never really worked it. And ever since that fight, I've been wrestling a lot, and I think I fought like 3 wrestlers since him, and I beat every one of them. And so I feel good with my wrestling now. I feel really confident with my scrambling, and I have no problem fighting him again if he came back.
Yeah, I think he's fighting in the PFL tournament.
Yeah, you won't see him for a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where can folks follow Saad Awad to help, so we can help promote this fight and get your name up out, help Bellator promote you a little more?
For sure, man. It's my first name SAAD and then MMA. So it's at Saad MMA. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram with the same handle.
Twitter and Instagram. Okay.
And I know we're winding down here, but one quick question about the Bellator heavyweight tournament. Who do you got in the Final Four? How do you see that unfolding?
Man. Well, you got Fedor fighting Sonnen, right?
Fedor Sonnen and Bader Mitrione.
Man, Bader's no joke, man. Bader's no joke. I know he's not. I know he's a 205 pounder in the tournament, but he's really I think he's 205. Yeah, he's a 205 pounder, right? Yeah. And
historically he is, yeah, but he came in at like 235 for his last fight.
That's a big, strong dude. You know what I mean? And of course I was leaning towards King Mo because he's my homie. But after that fight, I'm leaning towards Bader. But then again, you got Fedor. Fedor's chin hasn't looked as great as it did in the past. But if he doesn't get hit by Bader and he's able to land some, then of course, I'm leaning towards Bader just because he's the GOAT. He's the greatest, I believe, one of the greatest. But Bader's also still pretty young, still pretty hungry, and I think he might take it.
Awesome. I mean, that's basically how I see it too. I've said it many times on here. I'm a huge Fedor fan. I got my sweater and of Glorious Victory, and I love watching that guy fight. So thanks again for joining us. Your fight will be live on the Paramount Network on June 29th. Bellator 201 from the Pechanga Indian Reservation here in Southern California. And as usual, our fans can follow us at Combat Hour on Twitter, myself at MMA Hawk 21 on Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow Ed at Carbazal on Twitter. Thanks, Syed. Great talk. Thanks for joining us.
No, of course, man. And so sorry about my daughter being a little bit crazy. I just got home right before I got on the air, so
that's all right. What's her name again? Because since you made it on she's going to be on the podcast too. We might as well say her name.
Amaya.
Amaya. All right. Well, have a good night, Amaya.
All right, Amaya. They said bye. All right. Thank you guys, man. Thank you guys. Obviously, thank you guys for having me, man. And hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon. After the fight with my victory speech.
Yeah, definitely. I got a front row seat for that event, so I'll look you up this time and say what's up after your win.
Yeah, for sure. If you got a camera out there, I'll definitely shoot you an interview or whatnot. But thank you, man. I'll see you guys at the fight, and I'm coming in for the knockout.
Awesome. Cool. Have a good night.
All right, see you. Peace.
Thank you.